This scene has no dramatic tension. You can create dramatic tension by writing characters, even allies, to have some sort of conflict. And when that conflict occurs, their stories gain weight, and those characters have opportunities to grow. So what makes this particular scene lack tension? And does it matter? Well, yes it does. So let's discuss why. Our brains are hardwired to look and respond to conflict when we see it. So when it happens on screen or in a book or anything like that, it triggers kind of an emotional response and a bit of empathy for the characters, and we start picking through their problems and trying to work through the solutions with them as they are doing it. And this naturally makes us more invested in their journey. So when I heard through the grapevine that our Mandalorian was going to be meeting Ahsoka freaking Tano, and he'd be taking a baby Yoda with him, I was pretty excited. I think we all were, but my reaction at the end of that episode was a little bit flat. Before I go any further, I'm going to stop for a second and I'm going to say that my focus for this critique is on the character dialogue and writing in a couple of crucial scenes. And I still really enjoy the show, but what should have been a high point for me fell flat, and I'm not even going to touch on how I think the announcement of a spin-off series makes this episode feel kind of cynical in a way that it didn't before the announcement. And while I don't think I should have to say this, I know that there's going to be people that are going to get really defensive because, you know, they do the second you criticize something that they enjoy. Just be aware, not every fan is out there to destroy the thing that you love with their opinions. So, I don't know, go fucking have a seltzer or something. They're very in vogue right now. The Jedi is, at the moment of this recording, my favourite looking episode of The Mandalorian. It's beautiful, even through its grey tinge. Ahsoka is framed and shot like a real hero. Her action is dynamic and exciting, and her dialogue hints at a life of experience. It's very much her episode, and I think that's the problem. Ahsoka isn't the protagonist of the show. That's not to say that the camera has to be on Din Djarin at all times. In fact, I would argue quite the opposite. When you have that much focus and attention on a new character, unless they're going to be staying a part of the cast, the really interesting stuff and the stuff that makes their introductions really sing is that they interact with the protagonist, and when they do, there's some sort of tension. There's that word again. As Mando and Ahsoka's paths collide, they fight briefly before becoming BFFs.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
After that initial physical conflict, their interactions are flat. The dialogue is one-sided, and some people criticized Ahsoka as being too cold or too stoic. I think it seems that way because Mando doesn't bounce off her dialogue. There's very little push and pull. In this scene, we learn a great deal of information from Ahsoka. We get Grogu's name and backstory, but Mando shows no interest in this new narrator. Here, Ahsoka's just finished telling Mando that she won't help him for the first time, and then she says this.
His attachment to you makes him vulnerable to his fears. His anger.
All the more reason to train him.
No.
Let's pretend you're Mando for a second. You've met the Jedi you've been searching for, and she's just told you that you are the reason that she will not train Grogu. A complete stranger has just told you that your relationship is dangerous. She may as well have called you a bad parent. So how would you react? Probably not the same way that Mando does, because he doesn't question this at all. Instead, he uses himself as a bargaining chip to help Ahsoka with the Magistrate and the problems at the village, and he hopes that this exchange will change her mind. Now, before you start bashing away at the comments section, I know.
The whole show has been about Mando trading services for, so that he can get what he wants.
And you're right. It's what he does. But it's not really the strongest thread that you could be pulling on in this particular moment. The show has spent a great deal of time developing Mando and Grogu's bond, so this would have been a really good moment to show that, to dig into it. And for Mando to want to know why that bond could be dangerous, and to qualify who the hell this stranger is, and, who the hell is she to tell him that he's bad for his son? Create some tension. that they could then overcome by fighting together in the exact same way that we get to see in the episode later. A level of passivity in our heroes is not the worst thing in the world, especially in video games. After all, in some games, the very nature of the hero is to go from quest to quest until they complete their main mission. If you're playing a game and you meet a character who says, "Yeah, I can help you, but first you must travel to a different part of the map and do this other thing," that's par for the course and usually pretty fun. But really good games know when it's necessary to be more active and to ask questions that unpack the story. And while The Mandalorian does sometimes follow a video game-ish structure with armor level ups and boss battles and many you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of storylines, now we're at the midpoint of the story. And this is the moment when the main character needs to break from his passive role to become a more active protagonist. This is where the character's viewpoint and plan should feel shaken to its core, but instead, this scene has no dramatic tension, and it's anticlimactic because the road to get here has been rough. After all that danger, destruction, death, and chaos, Din Djarin reaches his objective, asks Ahsoka fricking Tano to train Grogu. She says no. He says, "But you promised." She ignores that and tells him to go and put the baby on a rock, and so he goes. So why does this all matter? Because The Mandalorian has shown us that it can do tension and character introductions really well with the new or lesser known or fan favourite characters alike. And it's made them wholly accessible to the mainstream viewer. But this time around it banked on us rather than Mando knowing and trusting and liking Ahsoka. But most of the audience don't know who she is. And Mando hasn't seen the Clone Wars and Rebels, and he thinks the Jedi are enemy sorcerers. But when he meets one that challenges who he is and his relationship with Grogu and acts dishonestly, he takes her word for it as gospel without even asking why or putting up a fight, which would create, tension. Hey Sean.
Hey Matt, I was just reading your script and I thought, isn't it interesting how it sort of seems like Mando has been brainwashed by a cult leader to just follow orders without question?
Oh yeah, that sounds good. I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, so, here's a link to something I prepared earlier.
Thanks for watching. If you like what we do, consider becoming a patron and you'll get access to some exclusive content and join the ranks of these absolute legends. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of future episodes. See you next time.